right there, I just thought, I'm not going to get this, you know. Wow, great deal. Lots of problems with this particular cabinet, mind you. It was complete, it was not working, and the glass was broken.
Get ready for the next round.
G'day guys, welcome to Spacies Arcade. Today we're going to talk about a pickup that I have mentioned a few times in the last couple of videos, and I have actually done this pickup well really since then, so I've had it for 2 or 3 weeks now. I want to share it with you today. It's a very special pickup for me, and I have said this on a previous video as well, that some of you guys might think it's so-so, but the game itself isn't necessarily rare, but the cabinet that it's in is quite unique, and certainly if you don't live in Australia, you probably won't be familiar with the particular cabinet. So what's the backstory, guys, on this particular pickup? Because I've said it again and again, I'm not looking for other machines at the moment. The arcade is getting to a place now where I'm really feeling like I'm locking in machines. Still a few things I want to tweak and change. At some stage soon, actually, guys, you can sort of see behind me here that I've started to build up some of the shelves here with stuff, and I'm starting to fit out the arcade, and it's really sort of coming together, and I think I'm going to have a bit of a arcade tour, a bit of a refresh for the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, guys, those of you watching, you want to see everything that's in this arcade, then please consider subscribing, hit the bell button to get notification. That'll be coming up, I don't know, a couple of episodes from now. I think I'll be pretty close. There's a few little things I just want to adjust in here, but anyway, back to the story. Yeah, I wasn't looking for games. I do have a really small list, and some of you guys might have that little list too, where if those particular games come up, it's really difficult to let them go. And sometimes you'll go above and beyond to get those special items that are special to you, and certainly in this case, this particular item was pretty special to me. So I wasn't looking. Again, one of these, seriously guys, the amount of times, I get the Spacies in view here. I mean, even the Spacies here that I picked up, I haven't seen another Spacies locally in Perth. Again, might be different around the world in terms of availability of these sort of machines, guys, but I've just been really lucky like that. The Super Sprint, even the Championship Sprint that I picked up as well, and then of course I've got the Theatre of Magic, and the only one that has eluded me today is a Toten at a reasonable price and local, which is just asking a lot. But beyond that, there are a few other games that I still want to keep an eye on. So I was flicking through, and it was Gumtree, and I saw this machine come up, guys, and I thought, that can't be actually, because the price was really low. And again, you've heard me say this a lot, but that's the machines that I pick up. I pick up the decent priced machines, good value for what they are. They're not always working or perfect or anything, but I can see the value in it. And one day, guys, if you're interested in me doing this, I have been saving a ton of different types of arcade cabinets that would have been good buys, and I want, you know, good buy, good purchases. And I want to share that stuff with you. I want to talk through why I think certain things are good buys for the price. Of course, prices are different all around the world, but I can certainly share with you my insight from the years of looking and searching and finding these sorts of deals. Anyway, so I saw this machine, and just the machine itself, like seriously, if the price was higher, I probably would have stretched to do it. Not that I'm really in a good position to do so right now, but I just would have, because they just don't come up for me at all. And when I went through the seller's ad, it wasn't in Perth, guys. Wasn't in Queensland, luckily, which of course is the furthest away from me in terms of a pickup. But it was in Victoria, state of Victoria, in Melbourne. And right there, I just thought, I'm not going to get this, you know. Wow, great deal. Lots of problems with this particular cabinet, mind you. It was complete, it was not working, and the glass was broken. The glass was broken. And look, in hindsight, probably if someone actually went out to look at it and they didn't really know what they were looking at, they probably would have passed even on the price, just given the fact that it had the broken glass, wasn't working. It sort of looked like a bit of a wreck, but I knew, guys, I knew that this was a treasure. This was something that needed to be grabbed and saved and added to the arcade to complete a number of special items that I've always been looking forward to add to the Spacies Arcade. So I thought, how can I get this in Victoria? And really, guys, I should be reaching out to some of you. I'm sure there's a few of you out there, got to be, that live over in Victoria. You could probably help me out, maybe. But I wanted to do it myself. I didn't want to bother anyone. So anyway, I sent a message to the seller. I just said, hey, would you be interested in, you know, packing it up if I organise transport? And I really just sent it off, guys. I just thought, nah, it's just... I just wanted to try. I thought, at least if I tried it, you know. And he came straight back and he said, sure. No worries. I was like, what? I mean, this machine should just sell easily locally. Like, why would he want to go through the trouble of packing it up for me? But he did. And I tell you what, guys, again, I found another absolute genuine arcade enthusiast. Although he didn't know too much about this machine, I don't think. He had a few other machines. This was a project that he was going to get back to, but he just doesn't, like most of us, don't have time to do any of these things. And that's why he was moving it on, but he didn't really have the technical skills to really work out what was going on with it and why it wasn't working. And he hadn't got back to the, you know, the glass and all the rest of it in terms of being broken. But anyway, he got back to me after I was like, okay, well, let's do the deal. And I then worked out the depot, because originally I was going to try and arrange, pick up from his house, guys, and he was okay with a depot drop. So he was going to pack it, put it in his car, drop it off at the depot for me, and the closest depot to him was actually almost an hour away. In fact, it was an hour. It was an hour away from him. It would have been a 2-hour round trip. And the guy said, look, it's a little bit out of my way, but hey, happy to do it. I was just blown away, eh? Like, that just restores faith in humanity for me, people like that. So he did it. He packed it up. He sent it across. I picked this machine up several weeks ago, guys, and I'm here to share it with you. And I tell you what, when I picked it up, I was stunned at just the sheer packing that the guy had done. Meticulous. Again, hats off to that individual. Just awesome. So guys, what is it? What have I purchased? Enough of the backstory, right? We need to get in and have a look at it. But before we do that, of course, I need to thank these awesome people for supporting the channel. And once we've seen these awesome people, we'll get straight into the unpacking of this mystery machine. Yes guys, it is an Asteroids Vector Nectar. Oh my god, but it's the Taito version of Asteroids. Alright guys, let's take a closer look at the machine. And as you can see here, the glass is very broken up. That's smashed on the corner here. Cracks all the way through, so there's going to be quite a bit of reflection here with all the lights on, but you can see that this is a write-off in terms of the top. And of course the actual game originally would have had black, and the instruction cards, the way the Taito ones do it, the instruction cards on either side, it's very different to the wood grain finish and the little inserts that the US Atari one has. And of course the other key difference between this and the Atari release is it's in a typical Taito cabinet. Of course Taito did license the game from Atari to release it in this form factor, and in doing so they made a few changes. They decided to put a joystick on there instead of the 2 buttons found on the US version. And of course different layout in terms of controls, even for the hyperspace and thrust. And I tell you guys, these are really difficult. It's the only thing about these Taito cabs. I love these Taito cabs. I mean, this is what Spacies came in originally. Very fond memories of this form factor. And some of them, like Missile Command, they actually have a control panel that comes out. If you remember the Missile Command that I used to have, it comes out flat, and it's a bit more traditional in that sense. But these early ones were sort of this vertical layout, and they've got a slight incline, and it's actually quite difficult to play. And what you find is you've got to do a bit of a technique here. If you're sitting on a stool, you're literally pushing the fire with your thumb, and you're thrusting with your knuckle. It's a completely different way of playing, guys. I don't think I've ever really played any video game where I'm using a knuckle for constantly for the thrust. And of course, to get the hyperspace, not that anyone really uses it a lot, you've got to sort of flick the knuckle up here and get it there. It's the only way to do it, because you're sitting up high. And the controller's not so bad, you can move that quite easily, but yeah guys, it's just a bit different. Look at the graphics on here, it's really cool. On the ones that I've seen on the internet, this hyperspace and thrust actually has Japanese here, and this is actually stuck on, but this is actually, I think, factory, because I've seen another one with this exact same sticker and font on the machine. So that's not something aftermarket that someone's put on. I think they did that when they released them in Australia, but it's actually really nice control panel, guys. Now the rest of the cabinet, there's a few little dings here and there, but it's pretty good. We've got the Taito stamps, it's all genuine, and again, even the price, given the condition, I would be well happy with. The legs, often these are painted over. They normally chrome, they should be chrome under here. Now I did look at this, and I'm not sure if I can get the chrome back, but I can see along here there's evidence of the chrome shining through here. That's not the metal, that's actually the chrome. And unlike the Missile Command, which I sanded back, the chrome was completely rusted away and I just got it back to the metal. Maybe I can get some of this paint off and get some of the chrome back, guys. That would be pretty special. But look at this. Look at this. Under here, we still have, get right down on the floor here, guys, for you. Oh, right here we have the original blue sticker, this packing stuff that covers the chrome from original. Can you believe that? So this was never peeled off from new. And I don't know if I can peel some of this off. Here we go. Look. That's what the legs should look like. chrome. But how cool is that? I've never seen a machine. Looks like they sort of ripped it off to here, and for whatever reason these cable ties were here so they didn't take it off any further. So anyway, let's see if we can get that back. Other than that, the machine is pretty good. You know, there's a few marks under here. It's what to be expected really for the age of these Taito cocktails. Now if we hop inside, let's take a look in here, guys. I'll just flatten this back so we've got that locked in. This actually looks really nice in here. We've got the original machine checklist. It's great to see all this in here. Asteroids. 609759, 4th of the 2nd, 1981. So all the original stickers here, guys. Stamps. These look too good. These look like they've been replaced. They look brand new. So I don't know what the story is with those. And even these look really, really good. But the wood looks really, really nice. So maybe, given the fact that, nah, it can't be, can it? Can't be. It can't be, because when you come down here, again, like all this is nice. I think this must have been changed. It's still nice in here. But, you know, you get down to this sort of thing, you can see where the metal has deteriorated. But again, this is where gravity works. It's magic. And along here, you know, we've got a little bit of wear. But, you know, guys, at the end of the day, this is very, very good condition for this machine. Now, what did I originally find? Because there's a couple of things have changed since I originally picked it up. So the first thing I did, guys, was I checked all the fuses. This 3 amp fuse was blown. I changed that. This board was not the original board. This is a replacement board that I've since got. The original board, let me show you, is here, and it looked okay. It looked like there was a little hook, there's a little bit of work there. It generally looked alright, but the problem is when it booted up, and at that point I seriously didn't know if it was the board or not. I thought it still could be power, but when it was booting up, it was just resetting. And I did notice on the back of this board there was a couple of mods, and this one is interesting. This actually goes to the reset switch, and it was just hanging loose. I'm not sure why that is, and it looks like it was supposed to connect up onto here. I don't know what that modification is. I have seen it though in another Taito board, so I'm not sure what that is. I think this particular modification here is to short these two pins together, which I believe gives us the flipping of player 2 on the cocktail machine, because this little modification isn't on the new board that I did buy. So I need to repeat this modification on my board, because currently I'm not getting screen flipping, and it is a short of 2 pins, and I'm suspecting that's exactly what that is. So I still need to do that. So anyway, what happened with the original board in there, after doing the 3 amp fuse, turned it on, guys, and it was just click, 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 and there was nothing on the monitor. And that was, I mean, I knew it wasn't working, right? So I just thought, oh crap, we've got a resetting Asteroids board here. Now the problem, of course, is what is the root cause of that? Is it the board? Is it that the monitor's not working? I mean, at the end of the day, I was hearing the popping of the speaker go pop, 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 pop. So I thought it might not be the monitor's fault. There was nothing coming up at all on the monitor. But I was getting neck glow. So I was looking down there and there was neck glow. So that was a good sign. I just wasn't getting anything out of it. So guys, what I did was I got the multimeter out and I put it on there, and then I realized that, well, two things. On the board itself, there was no red light. There's a red light on here that shows when the board is going, and that was not lit. So what I did is I took the harness off, the connector, and I put in the multimeter there, and it was reading 10 volts, guys. It's supposed to be getting 5 volts. It was like 10.2. And to cut a long story short, I looked at the power supply. I started going through the manuals, and here's the tricky thing, guys, is that the challenge with these Taito cabs is that you can't find a Taito cocktail manual. Well, I couldn't find one. And therefore you don't have the specifics of how they've set it up on here. The power supply on here is not the same as the Atari one in the US. It doesn't have the AR power supply. The audio regulator board is different. So there is a power board in here. It does regulate. It doesn't supply the power to the sound. There is a separate transformer, I believe, which is down here. So it is very different, and that's really frustrating. The other thing is that there's no test switch. There is a service switch in here, but this is a momentum switch. It's not a on-off switch, and you're supposed to have an on-off switch to be able to put it into test, and then for it to come up and it either beeps and tells you if there's RAM errors, and then if it passes that, you can go through some screen testing. But basically I couldn't do any of that, guys, without actually wiring in a test switch, and I could have done that, but I just thought, you know what, to fast track all of this, and not a bad idea anyway, why don't I get a known working Asteroids board, at least take the risk on it, because half the time on eBay you actually don't know if they are working, even when they say they are. But I thought I'll take the risk. I found one, and this particular one, the guy was saying, or girl was saying, that it had a problem in displaying in Spanish. Otherwise it was fully working. Now I did some research on, in the manuals and stuff of how the dip switches work and that, and there's a dip switch that changes the language, and I thought, oh crap, so probably the dip switch setting is wrong. This is the dip switches down here. Where are they? There they go. And I thought, oh crap, maybe there's something wrong with the dip switches and we can't switch it into English. I'm going to have to swap that out. But I thought that's probably minor. If it's working, at least I can at least test it. And the biggest concern for me, of course, was this vector monitor, because these things are just impossible to find. And it had the board in there. It's got the deflection board, the high voltage in there. And I thought, okay, well, it's complete. If I get the working board, then at least I can see if this comes up. All right. But first of all, I thought I have to sort out the power supply. So the power supply was pulled out of here and taken, of course, to Joey at Jomac, and he did his magic. I actually dug out and found the schematics for this power supply. I do a lot of searching to find this, because again, it's not in the original Atari manual. And luckily I found it. I gave it to Joey. He went through it all. He replaced a ton of stuff, ton of caps, of course. There was a chip that was blown on it, and when I put it back in, joy, it was absolute joy. Dialed it in for the pure 5 volts. It does regulate still, so if the voltage drops or goes up, it will change that. And it was rock solid, guys, coming through at 5 volts on here. When I did that, the light glowed on the board. I thought, oh wow, this was the original board, mind you, and I thought, wow, maybe it's going to work. But again, it fired up and it was still resetting. And in fact, now that I really think about it, I think the first time I fired it up, it wasn't actually doing the resetting. It was the resetting was happening after I got the power supply done. I think it was pretty much dead. Because I did some further testing, I remember now, and I was only getting like 2.4 volts on the board, even though it was 10 up here. So it was like pushing 10 through, then it was getting under load, and then the regulation was all out of whack, and it was throwing it back to like 2 volts. Wouldn't light up the bulb. Board wasn't working. Was probably, I don't know, fried with all the different voltages that went through it. I don't know, guys. I'm going to have to search that out and look at it another day. But this one I put in only after I got the power supply sorted. I measured all the voltages first before I hooked it up, light came on, and the board seemed to be happy. So then, guys, it's a long story, but this is what you have to go through. This is the sort of things you have to go through, one thing at a time. Because you think about this cocktail, really, it's just 3 core components. I mean, the transformers and stuff generally are all okay. And the sound circuits you can have problems with as well, but it's generally, you're looking at power supply, the main PCB, getting out the program logic and that working, and the graphics working, the monitor working, and of course the chassis, as well as the tube, to make sure the tube isn't necked. And you've got glow in the neck, and that's it really. So it's just a trial of elimination. Power supply was done, new board was in, supposed to be working. That left this. So let's turn it on, guys, and I'll show you what I got. Okay, let's switch it on. I heard the fans come up. And yes, guys, I looked at a blank screen. And I was so disappointed. I checked, I made sure we had a light on the board, but nothing on the monitor. If I look down there, I can see the net glow. There was nothing, guys. And I turned it off and I checked and rechecked and checked the connector. The connector's not great on here either, to be honest. And I was pretty discouraged, to say the least, because I thought, well, it looks like probably the monitor is dead. Even though I've got net glow, something wrong with either this, well, definitely it can't be the circuitry on the working board, because, you know, it was a known working board, right? So it can't be that. So there's net glow on the tube, so the tube is okay. So then I thought, it's probably the deflection boards themselves, or the, oh, I don't even think, would it be the high voltage if you've got the tube running? I don't know. I was, yeah, a little sad. I thought I got it. I got the power done. I got a working board, and this was the last big part of the picture, guys. And it looks like it wasn't to be. So in my despair, I'd left it sitting on, and I think collapsed on the couch thinking about what I'm going to do now and getting the deflection boards fixed, because those boards are things that Joey doesn't necessarily fix. He's not keen on the Vector stuff. So he's just so amazing with everything else, and of course he's doing modern stuff now, and he's really only doing this old stuff as part of, you know, supporting people in the hobby. So I was feeling pretty grim. Now I am even concerned right now because the machine has been on for a while, and I'm actually expecting to see a change. And guys, the change I'm expecting to see is slowly the screen actually come to life. And I think it's due to some really aging caps, but it actually is working. Well, it was working. I am really concerned because I'm not actually seeing anything right now. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the camera on, and we shall speed it up. In the past, it's taken about 15 to 20 minutes, and then slowly it's actually come up to life. So let's check it out. You can see it here, guys, just starting to come up. And funnily enough, when this first happened to me, right now the actual asteroids, it's actually been quite bizarre how this has come up the second time. See how bright these sources are? I was just seeing the sources. I saw none of the asteroids when this first happened. And so I actually thought there was a programming logic problem happening on the board, that somehow it was only drawing the sources and not everything else, but that didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And then after further research, I found that, of course, the sources and the bullets and that are just so bright. Look how bright they are, and compared to the asteroids that are floating around. So I thought, okay, I'm going to wait it out. And I'm not lying here, guys. I've been sitting here watching this thinking, is this going to come up? Because it's actually taken a fair few minutes to get to this state. But you can see now, we can make out these asteroids. They're sort of pulsing a little bit. But again, I would have given up. I literally would have given up. It was only, I saw the sources, I felt, a lot earlier, but maybe because I was turning it off, turning it on, I was checking voltages, and it was sort of warming up the caps and getting them all juiced up enough to actually start going. Isn't that amazing, guys? Like, seriously, you could just give up and go, nah, the monitor stuff. Now, of course, the chassis, or at least the caps on the deflection board, or perhaps the high voltage board, or both, of course they need to be changed out. I'm hoping that that will actually fix this problem, and we'll get the screen coming up beautifully on first turn on without having to wait so long. But anyway, for now, let's let this process continue until these asteroids stabilize and we get a nice screen, and then, guys, we can get in. I'll show you some gameplay. Okay, guys, it looks pretty close right now, but some of these asteroids here, they've just got one little side missing, and it's also still pulsing a little bit. Hard, I think, to see on the camera, but I can certainly see that it's not quite grabbing the correct luminosity, but you can see it's all really come up from what it was. And you also notice, of course, we have the English push start. So in the end, I literally just flicked over the dip switches for the English settings, and it came up. So there was actually nothing wrong with the dip package. So I was so pleased about that. And of course, it's also in free play, which was another dip switch setting. So really happy that the whole board itself was working perfectly fine. All we need to do is just wait for this to stop just flicking in and out a little bit. So we'll just continue on. We'll speed it up until we get there, and then we'll get playing. Alright, guys, well, we are close enough now. There's still just, I can see, it would be hard to pick up on the camera, but I can see on some of these little asteroids, there's just another little line that's slightly fainter. They must have drawn them with just different varying luminosity on some of the lines. And some of those aren't quite showing yet, and it's still got a slight glow to it, but it's getting there. And I know, because I've had this on before for a long time, that eventually all those lines end up showing. So it's quite interesting that the real bright, you know, from the sources and stuff, showed immediately. It seems like it's the low end which is having problems, and I'm not sure if that's just going to be the caps or not on the deflection or the high voltage board, or it might be other components. I'm not sure. It seems like it would be capacitors, given the fact that it actually eventually comes to life. So another cool little fun fact is, you can see here 1979 Atari. They put that on here actually to prevent the monitor from shutting down. So originally they had your ship in the middle. If you ended up just having one small asteroid left on the screen, it was so sparse that the monitor would shut itself down because it would think that it's actually faulted and ending up with, you know, a white dot in the middle when you get a fault like that, in which case it will shut it down. It's a spot killer. And so they had to make some extra drawing to make sure that that never happened. And of course, now that doesn't happen. The other thing, of course, or not of course, but we didn't mention before in relation to the PCB. The PCB, the Taito version, actually has Taito stamped on it. The original one that I've got is an Atari board. The new board that I got is an Atari board. Is more than likely was swapped out at some stage, which is a bit of a shame. We would have quite liked the original Taito board, so I might try and see if I can still find one, make sure that it's completely original. But for now, and from what I've read online, it's exactly the same board anyway. And in fact, even the Taito board still says 1979 Atari, so I think the ROMs are exactly the same. But there's a little bit there of investigation work to be done. I think there could be some different ROMs, but I'm not sure what those differences are. I don't know if they've been actually dumped into MAME. That's probably something for the guru who hangs out in Western Australia to answer. Maybe I can ask him and see if he knows if that's been done or not. So anyway, guys, let's now just look at this for a moment. Let's just stop, because you know all of this video has been so far about this picking up asteroids. Again, common game, sure, but you got to realize, I mean, look at the saucer when it comes across. I mean, all these asteroids right now they've come to normal brightness. This is the sort of normal CRT brightness, but these saucers and those bullets, and I know it's going to show differently on the video camera, but they are so bright. It's like daylight coming out of the monitor. It's just like, you just don't think the monitor could even glow like that. And it's just unfortunate, because you're never going to see it unless you see it on a vector monitor. And that's what's so special, guys. When I saw this machine, and not obviously it wasn't a cocktail machine back in New Zealand, it was a stand-up, and it was black and white like this. This was the way the stand-up looked. It didn't have a filter on it like this cab does. And it just blew me away. It's so smooth too. I think I'm running 50p. This is 60p. It's 60 frames per second. It's so smooth. It's deluxe. It really is. And coming from Space Invaders back in the day, bitmap graphics and all the rest of it, and seeing this and just these, it was something else, eh? It was just like, what the hell is this? This is so beautiful. It's like a dance. It really is. And I might be over romanticizing it, but at the time I was mesmerized with these asteroids. So let's get started and play. We don't have the nice little Atari cone buttons on the Taito version either, with the nice little red lights. We just got some standard buttons. But let's get into this and see what we got going here. And I think I've turned the sound down a bit. Let's turn that up a tad. And I've got some noise happening here. Let's turn it up a bit more. So I've got some serious noise on the sound card actually, guys, which I need to get resolved. But anyway, we'll deal with that. We might be too noisy if I turn that up anymore. Wow, okay. And I just, playing it like this with my knuckle on the thrust button, it's just very unnatural, as opposed to the controls I would have used back in the day on the upright, would have been like the American version with the buttons. But I don't mind the joystick. Look, it's just one of those things that you sort of get used to it. And maybe that's part of the cool thing about having this Taito version is you need to play on these controls. Maybe might be able to get a high score on Twin Galaxies with these controls because they're damn hard and they're much harder than the Atari layout. The other interesting thing, guys, is when I first played this game, and you've got to realize we're right at the start of video game history, I just sat in the middle and turned around. I did not thrust around like I am now. It's just bizarre. It was just, it seemed way too risky to be thrusting around. And again, the inertia that they built into this game is so good in terms of just giving it that bit of difficulty, enough difficulty to throw you off. Let's just get this in because it's not saved. In terms of battery, I need to get the brace kit to do that, but this the sounds of this originally, yeah, I've definitely got to get that sound card sorted out. The caps have got to be screwed on it too. The sounds were beautiful. You got the dum 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 in the background, which might be hard to hear, but it very much like the Space Invaders thing, you know. It was would get you all excited. Of course, the hyperspace, we try that, bang, come back in, didn't fry. I think 1 in 6 chance of blowing up when you try the hyperspace. And of course, I did an episode a while back on the Atari VCS, and I loved the version of Asteroids on the Atari VCS. It was a lot easier than this. I always found actually this was to be pretty difficult, and I know people that have mastered this game now, it's like really quite simple for them. When the little saucer comes out, that saucer has like a second before it starts firing at you and like actually homes in on you, whereas the big saucer just fires randomly, so it's a bit easier to get around. I tell you what, it's whoa it's hard with this button, eh? These buttons are big and solid, and just on this angle it's so hard to play like this, but again, I could get used to it. You know, I was originally thinking maybe I could modify the controls and have them a little bit flatter like a typical one, but I don't know, I'm not sure now. I think I maybe should play it like it was intended. But guys, how happy can you imagine? Oh, this guy, yeah, we all got him quickly. How happy I was when this all came up. Slowly came up. I was like, woohoo, jeez, see what I mean? Wow. Yeah, I was so happy. All right, so let's bring the screen, the tabletop down, because the interesting thing here is, and it might be obviously a little dimmer now, but the it's blue like Asteroids Deluxe, which is crazy. And so look at this. It looks so cool. Of course, we don't have the black light background, but it's not Asteroid Deluxe, it's the original one. But the original one, they came out with this blue overlay. And I originally thought this blue overlay was cracked from the pictures that the guy had sent me of the machine originally. But of course the cracks are all in the glass, and the blue overlay itself is actually perfectly okay. So if I do end up getting a multi-game kit in here, the braised one with Asteroids Deluxe, on the original PCB, then it's sort of going to have the right color. So it dulls the asteroids down a little bit. Some of those little ones are a little harder to see going through the filter. But I must admit, this blue color is pretty cool. It's asteroids, guys. It's asteroids. But wow, this made its mark. Back in the day, it was like something else. Come on, you! Missed him. This control's difficult. And of course, this is what they used to do. They used to just keep one sitting here like this, and then pick these guys off for high scores. If you're good enough, which clearly I'm not. Alright guys, well I think that's it. Wow, what an amazing game, and I am so happy to have this, especially the Taito version. Something very different in terms of cocktails. And I think I definitely am gonna try and get used to these controls. I think it's a black art in itself. Alright guys, let's finish up. Hey guys, what did you think of that? Again, a common game. It's a common game, Asteroids of course, but in the Taito format, Taito. No, sure, it's just Taito. In the Taito format, it's something very, very special, and luckily for us in Australia, we have access to these machines. They are around. I've seen a few others come up on Aussie Arcade, but it is a very unique machine. What do I think about the joystick? The button layout, as you saw, it's quite challenging. You know, the joystick is neither here nor there for me. You know, even with the buttons on the midway version of Space Invaders as opposed to Taito, which actually has the joystick, I don't mind the buttons, especially for Spacies, because it's really like, you know, back and forth type movement that the buttons actually work really well for. And in a way, Asteroids is similar because you know you're turning quickly on a dime in terms of rotation, and it sort of it works well. I played it with the buttons on a genuine Atari US type cabinet before. There was one in Perth. Here was the only one that I have played since back in the day. So yeah, guys, I am so happy that I've got a Vector Asteroids in here. I can look at getting the Braze multi-kit that will actually put the lunar lander, the Asteroids and Asteroid Deluxe all on the one, and of course with this particular unit with its little blue overlay, it will actually suit Asteroid Deluxe really well. But it's you know, these Vector games are just something, you know, I understand, you know, people like Arcade Jason, if you've watched his channel, and he's just got all vectors practically, and I understand it. It's just the allure of the phosphor glow. It's so bright. It's just nothing like just a normal raster CRT, and even those are beautiful. But to have the ship zooming along, when you got your thrust going, you can see the phosphor burn just flying off the back of the ship. It's just that stuff to me. That's the little stuff. That's the stuff that I think in this day and age, with all the complexities of the graphics that we have in modern games, it's those things that are missing. And in fact, that was an element as part of the unexpected element, mind you, as part of the design process as they went through and design Asteroids in the outset. That little burn off from the phosphor they didn't actually plan for, but it looked really, really cool. But the essence of the game was all about gameplay. It was tuned, the difficulty was tuned, the movement of the ship, as you saw, in terms of the inertia, all of that was tried and tested in different ways. They tuned it to get it just right in terms of the level of hardness and difficulty. to make it an enjoyable, playable game, as simple as it is. And it still is a simple game, don't get me wrong, but back then, wow, I still can, that phosphorus burnt in my mind when I first saw this machine. I just thought, wow, what the intensity of this brightness. I know I'm going on, guys, I'm gushing a bit here, but it's this sort of feeling about these classic games, which it's in some ways I feel get lost. You know, people just talk about Spacies, Centipede, Pac-Man, you know, Missile Command, Asteroids, Galaga, you know, in a very matter-of-fact way. And people pick up machines. In the US, they seem to be a little bit still of a bit of a dime of a dozen. Not really a dime a dozen, it's still quite expensive there, but they do come up a lot. I want to try and impart on you guys that back in the day, this stuff was really, really special. It was breaking edge, and it was the playability of it got you coming back again and again. I can't stress it enough. And I just want to try and capture it in this video, and of course within the channel as I share other games with you, because it's so important. Anyway, I have probably talked enough for this episode. Thanks again everyone for subscribing. Thanks for you guys that support the channel, it really means a lot to me. And we'll continue on, and as I said, there will be a tour of the arcade coming up a couple of episodes down the track. I'm really liking where it's going, and again I thank everyone that has watched and supported the channel to help me on this journey and push me along to create this awesome arcade. It might not be the biggest, I don't have the massive collections like people like Last Gamer and so forth, and you know, my hat's off to those guys and Joel over there, but you know, this is probably the smallest arcade in the world with the most in it. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm certainly trying to maximize the little space that I have, and I really am enjoying it. Anyway guys, enough of that. I definitely want to get back and play some more Asteroids, of course, and for that I'm going to need some coinage. Got a 20.
Fight like a robot.